destroys virtually every plantation and city in the country, then leaves the place a complete ruin, after which it's embargoed by France and the United States and the other colonial powers, all of whom had attacked the Haitian slaves during the course of this war. And the result is a country that is systematically and structurally impoverished.
If I can just swing you back, though, to the disaster now. I mean, you're Canadian. Canada hasn't actually been cloaked in glory over the rescue attempts, has it?
No, that's true. So Canadian rescue teams were ready to go the day after the earthquake happened, and they were stalled, and then eventually the decision was made on Sunday the 17th not to send them at all. And the explanation that was given by the Foreign Affairs Minister was that they weren't self-sufficient and it would be better to send Canadian armed forces instead, because armed forces supposedly could function as an autonomous unit and they could deal with what has now become the obsessive issue, which is this question of security.
On that note, we'll have to invite you back as this disaster unfolds, but thank you very much, Peter.
You're welcome.
Well, Haiti has certainly proved that if Obama wants to move swiftly, he can. But 1 year on, and people are now beginning to assess his impact. What do you make of him so far, Afshan?
Well, the bombing of Yemen, Pakistan, a coup in Honduras, the surge in Afghanistan. He's a warlike president.
Well, he got the Nobel Peace Prize, though, didn't he?
That's true, but he said peace is about war.
Yeah, but what about on the domestic front? I mean, he's still popular there, isn't he? And this medical aid care insurance.
The pharmaceutical companies love him, I think, because they give him all the money, don't they? What about, I mean, you're always talking about the Middle East. How do you think he's fared there?
People are disappointed, without a doubt. A lot of people are disappointed. We keep being told, look, America is a huge ship. It's very difficult to turn it quickly. But he seems to have steered very much the same course that George Bush.
And settlements? He did tell the Israelis to stop settlements.
Well, they're not listening to him at all, are they? I mean, they're still expanding. They're still continuing. And I would have thought that would have been the time that he could have exerted his authority and said, no, you've got to stop building, otherwise we'll freeze aid.
Well, he's good at killing anyway. He's been very good at killing. I spoke to Lawrence Hass when he passed through London recently to give me his thoughts on President Obama's first year. Hass is the former communications director and press secretary of Vice President Al Gore during the Clinton administration. Some may be saying that President Obama's policy is even more assertive in that he's expanded the bombing of Pakistan with so many civilian casualties.
President Obama, of course, did talk quite a bit about engaging with countries that we had not engaged with before. But if you also heard what he had to say, he talked very much about using military force when necessary, but just using it, in a sense, more selectively. He spoke in the campaign about stepping up attacks in the tribal regions in Afghanistan and in Pakistan when necessary. So it did not get as much attention as some of the other things that he said, but it really is quite consistent with what he promised to do when he was running for president.
Do you think that hearts and minds are being won as the U.S. military flexes its might around the Middle East and, of course, specifically in Afghanistan and Pakistan?
I think we probably continue to suffer from the fact that when you strike militarily, there's going to be what the experts like to call collateral damage. There will be some loss of innocent life. But again, it's compared to what? It's compared to allowing Al-Qaeda, the Taliban, to reconstruct themselves, to increase their capacity, to specifically target innocent life in that country, in the region, in Europe, and ultimately in the United States. So to me, it always comes down to compared to what. So if we take some hits with regard to hearts and minds in the area of those sanctuaries, it seems to me it's the cost we're going to have to pay for the greater goal of ensuring that we stay on the offensive when it comes to those who would sow terror anywhere in the world.
What about what the public at home, at the United States, feels about these adventures abroad.
We invaded Afghanistan, in which there was broad support right after the strikes of September 11th, 2001. We stayed there and stayed on the offensive. Then we moved into Iraq. That was obviously very controversial. Now the debate in Washington is about whether, as we're slowly departing Iraq, whether to send more troops to Afghanistan. And you can detect right now that we're beginning to see some war weariness on the part of the American people. And, you know, whether the administration is going to be able to retain the support of the American people to stay on the march in Afghanistan, I think is very much an open question.
Well, our next guest is becoming somewhat of a regular. I think he's a favourite of yours, Yvonne's, Mumia Abu-Jamal.
I think he's fantastic, but how do you get him on the line to make these assessments of what's happening around the world?
Well, he uses his weekly phone allowance to get his message out into the world. There has been some news in recent days of his Supreme Court appeal being denied, though, which some say increases the likelihood of his execution.
Well, yes, the day of judgment could be near. I mean, I've been reading up about Mumia Abu-Jamal, and I can tell you he's quite a character. He's been made an honorary citizen of 25 cities around the world, including Paris, Montreal, Palermo, Copenhagen. In fact, you can read much more about him and his case on our website.
From how to why. For many, especially in the West,